Hi, this is Denise Mathew. With the world around us changing, I thought today would be a perfect day to release this video. I've been wanting to make it for a while, and it's all about mindset and the concept that mindset can not only change the way you deal with adverse experiences in your life, but also how it can potentially even change your health, opportunities, and also what shows up in your life, both positively and negatively. So let's talk about the Gate 47 and a new way at looking at the law of attraction through a uniquely human design perspective. The type of law of attraction that I'm talking about isn't about getting a mansion or getting a new car or anything like that. It's about how to deal with adversity when you're actually facing it in your life, which a lot of people are right now, because the world is changing and we have to change with it as well. So when we talk about the law of attraction, I think there's very few people who haven't heard about the movie and subsequently the book, The Secret, that spoke about the law of attraction. In 2006, the movie The Secret exploded into popularity. Although there were already people who had an inkling about the premises that Rhonda Byrne, the author and film producer, was speaking about, never before had it been such a mainstream topic. Her whole premise was that everyone could be a millionaire or have anything they wanted if they had the right mindset. For sure, many people back then and even now have become millionaires based on the law of attraction, including Rhonda Byrne. Yet, to be honest, the people that were benefiting weren't necessarily the ones buying the book's courses and guidance. It was the people that were selling it. Byrne's work wasn't original. In fact, she was basically reintroducing the work of many who had gone before her. To explain the law of attraction, it's kind of necessary to go back in history a little bit. So if we go back in time and see what the origins of the law of attraction were, it was originally called the New Thought movement. And the ideas and concept were rooted in ideas that came from various philosophical and religious traditions. In particular, the law of attraction has been inspired by Hermeticism, New England Transcendentalism, as well as specific verses from the Bible and Hinduism. It's impossible to name every person and theory that eventually led to the law of attraction, but we can name a few, starting with Phineas Quimby. Quimby was one of the first New Thought movement originators in North America. He was born in 1802, and in his early life, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Since there was no real cure for tuberculosis then, Quimby took to horse riding and noted that intense excitement temporarily relieved him from his affliction, which was probably a natural endorphin rush and pain reliever. This method for relieving his pain and subsequent recovery prompted Phineas to pursue a study of mind over body. His statement documented what he felt was the crux of what he had learned. Although he never used the words law of attraction, most people will agree that he was onto something.
The trouble is in the mind, for the body is only the house for the mind to dwell in, and we put a value on it according to its worth. Therefore, if your mind has been deceived by some invisible enemy into a belief, you have put it into a form of a disease, with or without your knowledge. By my theory, or truth, I come in contact with your enemy and restore you to your health and happiness. This I do partly mentally and partly by talking till I correct the wrong impressions and establish the truth. And the truth is the cure.
Prentice Mulford, born 1834, was also known as a pioneer for using the power of positive thinking. His journey to finding more about the law of attraction began with his search for his fortune in mining. And when his dreams to become rich through mining fell apart, he took to writing essays about the law of attraction. His titles, Thoughts Are Things and The Law of Success, are still used today. And the one thing that we could notice about these early pioneers was that it was less about monetary gains and it was more about a health, happiness, and satisfaction with life kind of concept. The Master Key System was another early entry into the law of attraction and was a personal development book by Charles F. Hannell, who was born in 1866. It was originally published as a 24-week correspondence course in 1912 and then into book form in 1916. The ideas that he described and explained came once again mostly from the New Thought philosophy. And much later in 1984, Louise Hay wrote about the healing part of the law of attraction with You Can Heal Your Life. She wrote the book after she said she had cured herself of a seemingly incurable cervical cancer in 1976. As the law of attraction movement evolved, the monetary part continued to lead the pack, with Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. He himself was inspired by the Charles F. Hannell Master Key System. Later, W.D. Wattles wrote The Science of Getting Rich, which according to Byrne, was one of the main sources of inspiration for her film and book, The Secret. So if we go back to Rhonda Byrne and what she professed was the law of attraction's secret, she stated that a true belief that what she visualized would in fact manifest was important, and that don't was not perceived in the universe and was removed. So I don't want to fail became I want to fail. And it seemed that based on her work, her system was a no-fail method and everyone could do it. Yet you don't have to go far to find people who have tried everything as prescribed and nothing happened as they envisioned. From a human design perspective, some people say that manifestors alone have the power to manifest things in their lives. While that may be true, how is it that all the other types somehow seem to manifest good in their lives as well? So, in my opinion, that theory is flawed. So now let's move ahead and throw at a potentially new secret concept. And that would be that what we expect is connected to our mind, and what we desire is connected to our beliefs. Now let me explain what I mean by that. In 1897, Ralph Trine, who was influenced by the writings of Emmett Fox, Johann Golub, Fitch, Ralph Waldo Emerson, to name a few, wrote In Tune with the Infinite. In it, he said,
"The law of attraction works universally on every plane of action, and we attract whatever we desire or expect. If we desire one thing and expect another, we become like houses divided against themselves, which are quickly brought to desolation. Determine resolutely to expect only what you desire. Then you will attract only what you wish for."
So let's expand what I mean by belief and how it differs from thought. If we imagine that everything begins as a thought, and that thought is something that we reject, we accept, or we're neutral on, then that would mean that some thoughts come and go while others stay around. And also, when a thought is adopted and believed in long enough and has been proven of value, it can then become a belief. So from a human design perspective, we can imagine a thought that has been proven effective can metaphorically drop down into the Ajna and thus become a belief, because thoughts are from the mind and beliefs are from the Ajna. So if we expand on the concept of a belief, we might consider a belief something that is not conscious or something that is in our subconscious, which by definition is something that exists within you but is not immediately available to the consciousness. So as I said, it moves from the consciousness to the subconscious or the unconscious. So what that means is that the conscious mind is responsible for rationalizing and logical thinking, whereas the subconscious mind is responsible for involuntary actions. A key that we have to remember with a belief is that it can't be fooled. You believe it or you don't. As they say, talk is cheap. A bona fide belief is like gold, while thoughts are like fool's gold. And since this whole talk is about the Gate 47, let's circle back to that. Found in the Ajna, the energy of the Gate 47 talks about our beliefs, specifically mindset, and how much input into our reality we believe we have. How we deal with adversity in our lives plays a huge part in the energy of the Gate 47. And the question we might ask ourselves is, are we crushed by setbacks or do we believe in a better tomorrow? Now, if we look a little closer at the Ajna and the head, we can connect even more theories from human design. In human design theory, the Ajna is thought to house the design crystal, and the head houses the personality crystal. The theory about the design crystal is that it represents who we're supposed to be, and in fact, it's connected to the magnetic monopole before it comes into our body. But as soon as it comes into our body, it separates into the design crystal and also the magnetic monopole. And the design crystal goes into the Ajna, and the magnetic monopole goes into the G center, also called the identity center, in the area around the Gate 2. Now there's lots more information about the personality crystal, the design crystal, and also the magnetic monopole. But for my purposes, I just wanted to introduce them so that I can show you the connection and how they work with the law of attraction. And if you want more information, just check out the internet. There's lots more information out there. I have talked a little bit about the magnetic monopole in the Gate 10 video, and I'll leave the link below. But essentially, the magnetic monopole is a theoretical one-pole attractor that drives our lives and essentially our destinies. It keeps us in the flow of our lives and also in our purpose. The magnetic monopole is thought to be only an attractor, and it does not have the opposite. So the whole concept of mono means only one pole, which means there's only an attractor pole. By that premise, we could say that the Ajna and even the gates of the Ajna are connected to the magnetic monopole because they're connected before they came into our body. As I said before, the Ajna is all about beliefs, and it's separate from the mind or the head, and it's separate from the personality crystal. So by that theory, what the mind wants and expects may not be what the Ajna believes or desires, or even what our destiny, that's represented by the magnetic monopole, has set out for us. So let's expand this a little bit more. If we know someone with an open head or an open center has energy that's fluid and dependent on people who have a defined center, then that would mean if we have an open head, we would be inspired by anyone who has a defined head. Alternately, someone with a defined head or a defined center is conditioned by their experiences during their early life, and it happens quite early on. Basically, it's the file collecting time for anyone who has a defined center. Based on the theory by Richard Rudd, a colleague of Ra, and also the author of the Gene Keys, most of our inherent patterns are already formed by the age of 7. So in that vein, it makes sense that the open Ajna is conditioned by the beliefs of those with a defined Ajna. Now, if we imagine that an undefined center is like a room that's empty, while a fixed center is like a room that's filled with things, by that premise, we can imagine that someone who has a defined center, or in this case, someone with a defined Ajna, they see the world through a particular lens. And because the energy is more fixed, changing that perspective might be a little bit more difficult. Or in this case, changing a belief may be a little bit more difficult. But difficult does not mean impossible. So if we go back to the open Ajna, we know that it's fluid energy, and it also needs repeated experiences to form beliefs. Some will stick while others will fade away. So both someone with a defined Ajna and an undefined Ajna can adopt some level of new belief. For a defined Ajna, it's about assimilating it with the current beliefs so it becomes a new belief, while the open Ajna needs repetition until there's what we might consider an imprint. So by that premise, the law of attraction becomes two ways of thinking, and it definitely isn't a one-size-fits-all. And the most important part is that it has to become a true belief or part of your subconscious for it to get its maximum amount of impact. And based on the people that came before us, the law of attraction is all about positive breeding positive and negative breeding negative. So we can spin back to the gate 47 and the energy that lines up with mindset. And what is the difference between someone with a negative mindset and somebody with a positive mindset? It's like the whole story of a man who was complaining about the bus not coming and that it was late. And he complained so much and he was so focused on what wasn't there that he completely missed the bus when it actually did arrive. Pessimism is a closed mind, meaning that there's no opening for anything different to show up, because even if something good did show up, you might ignore it because you don't consider that it's enough, or you might miss it because you're too focused on complaining, or you might close the door on something because it's not exactly what you want. We certainly don't have to go very far to find people who will tell you exactly how horrible their life is, how they never get what they want, and that life is basically a crap show. And oddly enough, these kind of people are magnets for negative things happening in their life. Alternately, there are people who will try every quick fix they can, never really focusing on anything other than exactly that thing they have in their mind. And nothing ever seems to be enough, even when they get it. So, for instance, maybe they want to win the lottery and they might pass on an amazing job that would probably give them a lot of satisfaction and abundance because they're convinced that the only way to their happiness is the one where they buy the winning ticket and live a life of luxury. And of course, there are also people who, when things don't go their way, they feel oppressed, which is the theme of the I Ching hexagram that connects to the gate 47. And when we feel oppressed, it's like a feeling of being weighed down in body and mind. And this feeling of prolonged depression can sometimes lead to depression, a much more serious and debilitating state of being. Alternately, this kind of oppressive thinking can be forced onto others to the point where, once again, it becomes limiting for not only you, but it can also be that feeling that those in your life should think and believe exactly the way you do about religion, science, you name it, and that life is horrible. And this oppression gets projected onto others, and not only do you feel depressed, others around you feel the same way. But when we see the world through a new lens and understand that to find positive in the world, we have to be able to see it first, then we can construct a brand new reality. It's like a radar that gets reprogrammed, and the choice is ours. Now let's dip back into The Secret, the movie, the book, the law of attraction, and the way that most people will say it works. That everyone should be millionaires, that everyone should have everything they want, that nothing that you want should be out of your grasp. From a practical standpoint, it makes sense that not everyone is meant to be a millionaire, a celebrity, or a world-class athlete. We all have a destiny and a path that takes us through our lives, our own magnetic monopole. And even if our path isn't one where we are rich and famous, we all have a chance at attaining good things in our lives, at having enough. And that is the key to it all, enough. And what enough means to each individual varies dramatically. Some people measure enough by just having the bare essentials, what you need to survive, while others feel that there is never enough, and the more you have, the better your life will be. And others fall somewhere in the middle. For some, enough means that the bills get paid, and you have a place to live, and you have food on the table, and a little money set aside for emergencies. And most importantly, you have good health, both of body and mind. And this movie clip from It's a Wonderful Life just shows you the difference between how people look at the world and what enough means to them.
Hi, Tom, how much do you need?
$242.
Oh, Tom, just enough to tide you over until the bank reads.
I'll take $242.
What do you need?
Well, I suppose $20?
$20. Now you're talking.
Oh, I can get along with 20 all right.
$20. Okay. All right, Miss Davis.
Could I have $17.50?
Sure, Harlan.
And if we focus on the two extremes, those who live with very little and those who live with excesses, we can see that there is a definite disparity between them. Despite there being enough resources for all, it's easy to see that there's no balance in the way the world is now. And this disparity is only highlighted and made worse because social media baits so many of us, where people with so-called perfect lives flaunt their excessive amounts of wealth and the life of luxury that they have. And it's always with the adage that they, in fact, have worked really hard to get where they were, with the implication that those who have less haven't worked as hard as them. Yet with the rise of sustainable living and a minimalist movement, it seems as if we're ready to step back from the edge and once again begin seeing someone who lives a modest life as much of a success as someone who lives an extravagant, over-the-top, and many times outside of their means kind of life. This, in fact, can be seen with the popularity of Marie Kondo, an organizational expert who puts emphasis on only having and keeping things in our lives that give us satisfaction. And if we look at the theme of one size doesn't fit all, we can start looking at what's important to us and what gives us some level of satisfaction. And the idea of more just because it seems like it's glamorous morphs into finding the things that we truly desire that really give us satisfaction and having those things in our lives. And by that theory, what gives us joy and satisfaction changes dramatically because it's based on where we are in our lives. Some will say a pain-free day is all they need, while others will gain great satisfaction from a particular outfit, a very nice meal, a makeup palette, a car, whatever. And if we connect this concept with the Gate 47, we can pull in the word gratitude. And that by definition is being pleased with a particular comfort or pleased by a discomfort that's alleviated. Keeping gratitude in our mind for where we find ourselves in our lives can be the difference between seeing potential and hope in the world or feeling fear and desperation in the world we find ourselves in. And instead of trying to live someone else's dream, we can live our own lives with our own dreams. Because the fact is, there will never be any true belief in a dream that doesn't belong to you. And that's what we need to see when we work with the law of attraction. The question might be, what do I really want? If this person wasn't showing off all that they have, Would I care about $2,000 purses or a fancy car or vacations to exotic places? And would I care about living in a mansion where it takes all day just to walk through all the rooms? Or in fact, would we put our hopes and dreams on something completely different? As we journey on the path of 2020, the hope is that we all, as a collective, take a deep breath in and realize what truly matters in our lives. And in realizing what truly matters to us, we see that all the things we chased after with all our energy didn't really matter much at all. Life and death shows us the truth, that when it all comes down to it, we all want the same thing: health, love, acceptance, purpose, and enough. And when we discover what those things mean to us, then we can start to believe that it's not only that we deserve it, but also that it's on the way. And in my opinion, that in a nutshell is the law of attraction. And with that in mind, the question we might ask ourselves is, if we all knew that now, this very moment in our lives, was all that we were guaranteed, how would our priorities in life and our dreams for the future change? Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching and being here. And before I leave, I just wanted to leave you with one more message. I just want to say that we can all see the world changing before our very eyes, and we're changing with it. And one day, this will change too, because nothing is ever permanent. No matter good or bad, it always changes. And when the dust settles, we'll look back at this time and we'll look at the moment that we faced adversity and we stood our ground. And we refused to give up. And because of it, we grew stronger, knowing that when the waves came, we stood our ground. And when push came to shove, we remembered that we're all in the same team and that humanity will always survive.